Hey friends, I hope the morning's treating you well. I saw an article this week that was kind of hard to wrap my head around. It was pretty amazing. The headline was something about Rolling Stones guitar, stolen guitar, shows up in museum collection, something like that. And I read it, and this is off the top of my head, but this is the gist of the article. Keith Richards had this Les Paul's, a 1959 Les Paul's, a Sunburst, is a burst. Now we know this is like hugely coveted, guitar that's kind of at the pinnacle of the guitar playing world in a lot of ways. One of the pinnacles. He played it on the Ed Sullivan Show, their very first appearance. He later sold it to Mick Taylor. And Mick Taylor played it on a bunch of stuff, and when they were recording Exile on Main Street, the drug use got way out of hand, and some unsavory characters were showing up, and some drug dealers walked in and stole a bunch of guitars, a few different instruments, and one of those guitars was this 59 Burst of Mick Taylor's, and it was gone. Nobody saw it. He never heard anything of it from there. And Mick Taylor claimed he was never compensated by the Stones for that. And go fast forward all of these years forward, and the Met has a collection of guitars that's given to them, 500 guitars by a collector that go on display. These beautiful, rare, showing the history of guitar, and one of the prized things is this burst in there. Well, Mick Taylor's manager sees a picture of it and starts looking. One of the things about those old bursts is the wood would flame. The guitar players know what I'm talking about. The people who aren't guitar players, it's like a pattern in the wood that they call flaming, and it's no two are alike. It's like a fingerprint, and it's kind of easy to identify guitars from that. And the manager sees this, and he's like, that's Mick Taylor's guitar. And so all of these years go by. I think it's 54 years. It's at least 50 years, nobody hearing about it, and it shows up in this museum collection, like this big deal museum collection. And that makes, like, what do you do at this point? Where do you go from here? And I'm going to read just a quick thing that was from a 15-year-old article in The Guardian about the making of Exile on Main Street, and just the craziness. A lot of stuff they talk about, the craziness with it, and they talk about the guitars getting stolen. This is The Stones and the True Story of Exile on Main Street by Sean O'Hagan. And I'll say ahead of time, there's a lot of, they were in France and they're saying a lot of French names, and I'm absolutely going to butcher them. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm just doing the best I can. As a kid growing up in rural Indiana, there's only so much French pronunciation that you can catch up with. It says, by October, heroin use seems to have been a constant in the lives of Richards and Pallenberg. I walked into the living room one day and this guy had a big bag of smack, Anita Pallenberg remembers, and everything just disintegrated. Perhaps it was telling that when Richards bought himself a speedboat, he called it Mandrax. I don't even know what that means, but said heroin brought with it usual problems of supply and demand, and the usual retinue of shady characters and criminals, both local and from nearby Marseille. Villa Nicote was such an open house that one day in September, burglars walked out of the front gate with 9 guitars of Keith Richards. Bobby Keys' saxophone, I didn't know about that one. I'm wondering if Dan Baird is out there watching. Did Bobby Keys ever tell you about that, Dan? It'd be nice to hear about that down below. 9 of Richards' guitars, Bobby Keys' saxophone, and Bill Wyman's bass in broad daylight while the occupants were watching television in the living room. They carried those out while people watched TV. That's how loose and stupid it was out there, says Wyman. The crime was reputedly carried out by dealers of Marseille, who were owed money by Richards. The nocturnal goings were also starting to attract the attention of the local populace and the increasingly suspicious police force. The music was so loud, really, really loud, Pallenberg remembers. Sometimes I went to Villefranche during the day and you could hear the music there, and it went on all night. So that's a little bit of this has been talked about for quite a while, and there's all these pictures of Mick Taylor playing this to prove, I guess, provenance. The question I have is, if I had a guitar stolen today and I saw it, somebody saw it in a local pawn shop next week, they could, tell about it. As long as there's a police report or something, they could go ahead and identify, yeah, this is that guitar, and the wheels would be in motion to where the pawn shop would have to give it back to me, or they'd give it to the police who would give it back to me. And there might be a process that goes on between them. And so that's an immediate thing. We can go back to, as a person who's been in the British Museum and seen the amazing collection of things there, an amazing collection, that a lot of them were, plunder, that were taken from places and never given back. There's a time when people don't think about giving those things back anymore. They stay there. And I think of the stuff in World War II that was seized from, a word that I won't say because it'll probably be flagged on YouTube, but the Germans would seize. And some of that stuff has been returned, some of it is not. How long does it take before it's too long to get it back? Is 54 years too long? I don't think so. It seems like Mick Taylor should be able to get that back, and I would hope that the Rolling Stones Incorporated would say to their lawyers, why don't you go ahead and start the wheels in motion to get Mick his guitar back? We're talking about a guitar, I don't know, how much is it worth? 100,000? 200,000? I don't really know. Once you get up into that expensive, I've never shopped for guitars that are that much money. It's a lot of money for a 59 Versa, especially when you consider that it was the very first one that Keith Richards ever played on Ed Sullivan's show. We start talking about a lot of money, and it might go into the millions, or it's the one you hear on Exile on Main Street. So anyway, I'm curious about that. What do you think? Are there, I think there's probably a lot of opinions out there, and I'm going to link a couple articles somewhere in here to where you guys can read and catch up a little bit. And that's the gist of it. If I got anything wrong, I apologize. I'm sitting out here feeding squirrels peanuts and telling guitar stories. And I want to say this before, if you're watching this, I'm driving to West Virginia while you're watching this. This was recorded the night before. I have to play a taping for Mountain Stage in Charleston, West Virginia, that will be aired on 270 NPR stations in September sometime. And so keep an eye out for that. And if you're in West Virginia and you see this, after it was, come on out to the taping and say hey to me. It'd be great. And the most important thing I want to say is we spend a lot of time together on Saturday mornings. I'll post videos throughout the week. I'll post videos throughout the week in our super secret area and Patreon, or the channel members here. But most of you who are the regulars will share time together on Saturday mornings. If you miss an upload, or maybe two, maybe you go on vacation and you just don't watch stuff, the way things work is the algorithm will think that you just weren't interested in this channel anymore, and it will stop recommending my stuff to you. So we'll spend this time together for 2 years, and just because of algorithms and things like that, we can drift apart, and I may never ever be recommended to you again, even though you want to see it or whatever. We can drift apart that way. What I would like for you to do, so we can make sure things like that don't happen, is in the top comment down below. I'm going to put a link. I have a newsletter, like an email list, where I send out things about what I've got going on, and just we keep in touch. So I'm not going anywhere. You know, I'm going to keep doing this channel. You're going to be on YouTube, but we just might not see each other one day. And it'd be nice to know that 5 years from now, if we wanted to be in touch with each other, we could. And by you signing up on that email list, that'll make that possible. And if you don't sign up on mine, if there are other people who you really dig watching on YouTube, and you know, you want to stay in touch with them, sign up on their email list. And it's a great way to stay in touch. And tell me down below what you think about that guitar situation. Should it go back to Mick Taylor? And I personally think it should, but you know, but lots of gigs coming up. I'm going to announce one in Chicago next week. Any of my Chicago friends out there? We just announced Louisville, Nashville, Houston. Got Indianapolis and Cincinnati coming up. A lot of stuff, a lot more to be announced, and things are really good. And oh, Amy released her record yesterday. My gal Amy, my partner for 20-something years. So there's that. Sign up on that email list, and you'll know about all that stuff. And I'm going to put a video up here. It'll be a song off my new record, in case you haven't seen it. Check it out, and I'll see you somewhere down the road. Much love to you.